Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Meteorologist Steve Caparata here. It's just after 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon, January 19th, and I wanted to give you an update on the latest on this looming winter storm, and all signs today pointing towards what could be some major impacts here in South Louisiana, Southwest Mississippi, and really along a good chunk of the Gulf Coast. As we'll kind of walk through, not only significant, this could be historic in some areas. So, ramping up the messaging today as we get ready, now within 48 hours or less of those impacts arriving. So it's time to get the preparations completed and make sure you're ready for what is on the way. All right, so let's get to the data that we have to share with you this afternoon. The first new item, and you probably got an alert. If you have our first alert weather app, you certainly got it. But now a winter storm warning for the majority of our viewing area, shaded there in white. So we were under the watch, now a warning. So that just means now increased confidence that we will get significant impacts from this winter storm system as it moves on in. That officially runs really through the day on Tuesday, kicks in midnight and runs through midnight Wednesday. So a 24-hour stretch that really just about all of South Louisiana, I should say, is under the warning, and our counties in Southwest Mississippi, extreme coastal locations, parts of Terrebonne, Lafourche, Jefferson, Plaquemines parishes, not in that warning, although I still think we're going to have even significant impacts right on down to the coast. Not just us, though, as I mentioned. Look at this. You've got winter storm warnings all the way into South Texas. You don't see that very often. And then you've got east of us, winter storm watches all the way up towards Charleston, South Carolina. So yeah, the impacts of this system are going to be far reaching, not just us over the next several days tracking this system. All right, so excuse me, let's give you a look at one of the model perspectives. We're now starting to get in range of our higher resolution models, which starts to give us a little more detail and also starts to give us a little more confidence in those details. So I'm going to show you the graph model here. We pick it up tomorrow morning. And a key point I've tried to emphasize all weekend is tomorrow's still going to be fine. So if there is anything you did not or cannot finish up today, need to get it done tomorrow, tomorrow's still fine. So if you're traveling, it's going to be okay. So as we get into the afternoon, we start to get clouds moving in. That's 5 o'clock Monday, but all dry during the day. No real worries. And really right on into Monday night, mainly dry. Now the graph does start to generate at least some lighter snow showers around midnight, just a little bit west of us, but in central Louisiana, back into eastern Texas. But that will spread eastward. And you see here the snow starting to pick up as we head towards daybreak on Tuesday. And yes, you see a little bit of pink showing up. So right now, it looks like for areas largely along and north of the interstates, this is pretty much an all snow event. There's a small window, maybe at the very beginning, if we're near north of the interstates, that we could get a little sleet mixing in. But this looks like largely a snow event near north of the interstates. Closer to the coast, a little more potential for a little bit of ice. Now, right now, looks like more sleet than freezing rain, which is good news because freezing rain's the worst. We'll keep an eye on it, though, because there could be at least some lighter ice accumulations, especially in the coastal parishes. So that's daybreak Tuesday, 6 a.m. And what you'll see here is through the Tuesday morning, quite a bit of snow overspreading really just about all of South Louisiana, Southwest Mississippi. And if you can make it out, some darker shades of blue showing up. So that's not only snow, that's the intensity picking up here. So yeah, it looks like things are really going to get going Tuesday morning. So I would suggest that you really, wherever you're going to be, you want to be there by Monday night. Probably Tuesday morning, travel conditions are going to go downhill rather quickly. What you'll see here is the snow does start to wind down Tuesday afternoon. So there we are at 5 o'clock. Most of it's starting to pull off to the east. And by Tuesday night, not only we're dry, skies are clearing out. And then it's just bitterly, bitterly cold Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. So prime time for the snow right now kind of looks like Tuesday morning into about maybe early to mid afternoon. After that, things start to diminish and taper off pretty quickly. The question on everyone's mind, all right, Steve, how much snow are we going to get? So I mentioned we're starting to get in the range of some of the higher resolution models. Now, there's a caveat here. when we show you model snow totals like this, it's based off of a 10-to-1 ratio of snow to liquid. And I kind of got into this yesterday. It's what makes snow amounts a little bit tricky. Not all snow is created equal. There can be drier snow, fluffier snow, and there can be a heavier, wetter snow, which is what we tend to get when we do get snow. And ours tends to be a little bit heavier. So the models use, just as an average for the most part, this 10-to-1 ratio. So you've got to understand it's not a perfect forecast even from the models. So as we advance this, the NAM model, which is a high resolution model, you see through daybreak Tuesday doesn't have much accumulating yet in our part of the world. It's starting to get some light accumulations in south central and southwestern Louisiana. But as we advance this through Tuesday morning, there you see it, right? The snow really picks up. And so the NAM already depositing a good 2 to 4 inches across much of the area by lunchtime on Tuesday. And look at those numbers. Whew, boy, that would be something, right? So it's got widespread totals, at least in South Louisiana, 4 to 8 inches, and even a little bit higher in spots. A little bit, it kind of focuses the snow kind of near and south of the state line. So the farther north, this is so atypical, right? The farther north you get this event, amounts actually kind of diminish and taper off a bit. So that's what the NAM has. So if we get amounts anywhere close to that, boy, you're talking, not only noteworthy, but almost historic, among the top snowstorms on record for our part of the world. So that's a big deal. All right. So we want to emphasize that. All right, let's take a look at the European. So the NAM is a high resolution model. This version of the European is actually a fairly high resolution as well. So pick it up now, early morning hours of Tuesday, and it is a little bit quicker in bringing in some accumulating snow Tuesday morning by daybreak. Already starting to show a little bit, perhaps, into Metro Baton Rouge, parts of our viewing area. And then through the morning, once again, you see how the totals pick up, and you see how not too dissimilar from the NAM. It's got 2 to 4 inches in many places by lunchtime Tuesday. It does have the band a little bit farther north than maybe the NAM model did. But by the end of the day Tuesday, the European has most of our area in that 3 to 6 inch range, which is the number I've kind of been telling people to plan on as a baseline the last couple of days. And my thinking hasn't changed too much on that. Let's plan on the 3 to 6, which even that is just crazy. But I'm going to show you, and you already saw in one model, but we're going to get into a little more how those totals could go even higher. All right, so that's the European. Thought I had one more in here. But anyway, all right. Maybe I'll bring the GFS snow back up here at the end. This map is a little bit hard to see. I know. It's kind of the best I can do, though, with this. So yesterday I talked about the national blend of models. Instead of looking at one individual model, as the name implies, the national blend of models blends a bunch of them together. And it's not just a simple, equally weighted blend. Different models get different weights. We try to account for biases. It's pretty complex. But it's a pretty good product to look at for at least a good start to a forecast. And so what I have plotted here are the chances, the probabilities, according to the national blend of models, of getting at least 3 inches of snow. And man, these numbers are impressive. So I'm going to try to draw here a little bit because I know this map is a little bit hard to see. But basically, it says anybody that's north of that line that I just drew has at least a 50% chance of 3 inches of snow. Man, that's remarkable in our part of the world. All right, so that's 50%, the odds of 50%. Let me draw again. Now I'm going to give you in essence, the 60% line. And give me a second here. Slow process. But as we get into this 60% contour, now you're looking near and just west and northwest of New Orleans, but a good chunk of the WAFB viewing area, areas near and west of I-55 and near and south of the state line, at least a 60% chance of 3 inches of snow, according to the national blend of models. Now I'm going to highlight one more area now, This area, this contour is the 70% chance. And there's a couple little gaps in here, but understand this has all got some uncertainty in it. But it's basically got Baton Rouge, Lafayette, Lake Charles, up to around, say, Opelousas, and then anybody south of there, a 70% chance of at least 3 inches of snow. So those are crazy numbers for our part of the world. So that gives you an idea. We're starting to see growing confidence that this is going to be one of the bigger snow events that many of us have seen in our lifetimes, those of us that have lived down here for a while. All right, so let's do that same thing. The chances of at least 6 inches of snow, I bumped that threshold up, and man, these numbers are still fairly impressive, the odds, okay? So let me draw a few of those contours again. The first one I'm going to highlight in this general area, which really includes a good chunk of our viewing area outside of like coastal parishes and just a little bit north of New Orleans. That's at least a 30% chance, a 1 in 3 chance of 6 inches of snow, according to the blend of models. And I appreciate your patience, but I know a lot of you are probably interested in this, and oops, wrong. That's my straight line tool. I need my curved line. So I do just want to go a little bit slowly with these maps because they're interesting and pretty revealing, I think. All right, so now there's basically your 40% contour of at least 6 inches of snow. So again, you're looking kind of right along the North Shore of Lake Pontchartrain, west through Metro Baton Rouge, Lafayette, Lake Charles, all of Southwest Louisiana in that. And then let's do the 50%. And the 50% right now kind of runs along I-10 from near Baton Rouge to Lafayette to Lake Charles, and there are some other blobs of 50% that show up. So the fact that we're even seeing in model guidance that it's trying to say there's at least a 50-50 chance of at least 6 inches of snow, that's just something I've never really seen in my time forecasting down here, about 25 years at this. So we're breathing rare air when it comes to at least the outlook as it stands right now. All right, let's look at one more. I bumped it up. I said, what about a crazy scenario? At least 10 inches of snow. And surprisingly, there's still chances on the board. So the first contour you see, kind of that darkest blue, that's 0 to 10%. Where you get into the next shade, that's 10 to 20. And if you can make out kind of these little stripes of brighter purple, if you will, those are 20 to 30. A 20 to 30% chance of at least 10 inches of snow. A 1 in 4 to a 1 in 5 chance of at least 10 inches of snow, it says. And then you can see it even has a little band in western Louisiana with at least a 30% chance. So those are crazy, crazy numbers, all right? But I wanted to show you that, just to show you that some big numbers are in play when we get to Tuesday. And there's another model that I did not put in here. I don't have a lot of experience with it as it relates to forecasting snow, but I can tell you it had a number of spots in double-digit totals, and that's got me a little nervous. I'm going to keep an eye on a couple of runs of it before we talk too much about that. But suffice to say, we could get some heavier snow bands. It's not out of the question where we're talking double-digit snows, historic stuff, okay, if we get that. So that's huge. And I showed this yesterday, but just to put that in perspective, there's only one time we know of that Baton Rouge had a double-digit snow event that was over 2 days, way back in 1895, February 14th and 15th. And this was a real well-known event, even though it's a long time ago. It's well documented. There were areas, mentioned this yesterday, in southwest Louisiana got up to 2 feet of snow. So crazy stuff. But look what's number 2. 6 inches back in 1914. And so right now we're saying there's a realistic chance that that there's a decent chance we get to at least 6 here in Baton Rouge. So if we do that, we're in a top 2 event. And even if we get on the lower end of the range we're kind of giving you right now, that 3 to 6, we're cracking the top 5. So that's where we stand right now. It looks like baseline, top 5 snow event on the high end could be pushing historic. So I try to be careful in the words I choose, but that potential is there. So I've had questions about power outages, things like that, and I got to be honest, I don't have a great feel for that. Generally speaking, snow's not going to be as much of a threat with power outages as, say, freezing rain and ice. But if we start getting in on some of these bigger totals, I don't know. They'll certainly be enough to bring down some tree limbs and things like that. So I would be prepared for that potential. But the numbers we're talking about, we have such a limited experience with. It's hard to look back and say, here's what happened when we had this amount. So I wish I had a better answer for you, but I truthfully don't. That's just one thing. My thinking right now is maybe still not major power outages, but certainly some sporadic to scattered outages would be expected. But a lot's going to depend on those amounts. All right, and then the other thing we have really emphasized here, you got to be ready for the cold. We all focus on the snow, and that could be fun if we don't get overwhelmed with it, but you got to be ready for the cold. This is going to be big time cold, and it's going to last a while. So if you follow me on social media, you saw I posted a picture. I got my pipes wrapped today, got that done. Get that done if you haven't, because some of you are going to have a hard freeze as soon as tonight and tomorrow morning. We've got the low down around 24 in Baton Rouge, 26 Tuesday. Now, Tuesdays we get the snow. Here's another key. Right now, there's a reasonably good chance that much of the area does not get back above freezing once that snow starts falling. So it'll accumulate, and it's going to be there a little while. We may not see temperatures get back above freezing, say, in Metro Baton Rouge until late morning or afternoon on Wednesday. And even then, if we've got some fairly heavy snow that's falling, I don't think there's going to be enough daylight and enough of a window above freezing Wednesday that we're melting everything Wednesday. I think if we get these snow amounts we're talking about, there's still going to be stuff on the ground Thursday. And so then you're into the issue of we start melting Wednesday, but temperatures drop back down. Look how cold it is. So Wednesday mornings are coldest. We'll come back to that in a second. But Thursday morning's another hard freeze. So if we start melting, but then Wednesday night, temperatures quickly drop back below freezing, guess what? Now we're going to be worried about icing on the roads. So I just want you to wrap your head around that, travel Tuesday and Wednesday right now looks pretty iffy, but Thursday could still be problematic in some areas. All right, but you see there, depending on your exact location, we're very close to hard freeze all 5 mornings this week. North of Baton Rouge, I would say it's likely you've got at least 5 hard freezes on the way. So that's why, when we focus on the pipe threat, it's not just about the actual air temperature. It's the duration of temperatures at or below freezing. We're going to have a lot of that this week. So you got to have those pipes protected. We'll finally start to see temperatures rebound a bit next weekend. But notice the Wednesday morning low, 17 for Baton Rouge. That's colder than what we showed you yesterday. Guidance has trended even colder Wednesday morning than what we had been talking about. All right, so here are the key messages as I see it on this Sunday afternoon, almost Sunday evening. Hard freeze is likely this week, so let's take care of the 4 Ps. People, pets, plants, pipes. Be very careful with how you heat your home. Space heaters. You can't leave those on overnight unattended. I know it's hard to avoid, but you can't do that. It's just not safe. Don't plug them in to extension cords, power strips. Don't put anything flammable anywhere close to them. You got to have at least 3 feet of separation. So be careful with that. All signs point towards a significant winter storm coming up on Tuesday. Impacts to travel, as I mentioned, are likely, I would say, Tuesday and Wednesday, and could even bleed into Thursday. And in terms of snowfall, totals of 2 to 6 inches look to be common. That's the range across South Louisiana into Southwest Mississippi. As I showed you, some bands of 6 to 10 inches plus are not out of the question. That's what we really got to watch, because then you're really talking about some major impacts, just unheard of type stuff for most of us in our lifetimes if we start seeing totals like that. So crazy numbers. All right. With that, I did. Uh, I mentioned before. I thought I had the GFS snow totals. Hang tight for a second as I drag this graphic in. The audio will drop. All right. So here is the GFS, and let me just back this up a little bit. So daybreak Tuesday morning, starting to have some light accumulation showing up in our part of the world, but picking up through the morning. And by lunchtime, has anywhere from 1 to 4 inches for most of the area, and shows the numbers continuing to build, and kind of has, for most of us, that 2 to 6 inch range that we talked about by the time the event is done. So you see why we have good confidence right now in the snow totals running at least 2 to 6 inches, because pretty much everything I showed you shows that right now, at least. But we got to watch out for the high end potential, right? All right. Wanted to pull this graphic back up while I take a peek over to those of you who are watching on Facebook. Um, Try to answer a few questions if we can before we wrap it up. Um, Yeah, Julie was commenting here. It's not the snow that bothers me; it's the ice. So if there's any good news here, for most of us, the threat of ice looks very limited. Now, as I mentioned, along the coast, that's maybe a little more of a threat, but this really primarily looks to be a snow event for most of us. Let's see, just a lot of comments. Um, Let me flip over. This is on a couple of different pages, so give me just a second, and I'll looking on my page, and I'm going to go to our WAFB primary page on Facebook. Yeah, Wanda's asking, what about Slidell? So the outlook we kind of gave there is really, it's a regional outlook, 2 to 6 inches on average around the region, no matter where you are in South Louisiana. Plan on that, and then understand there's the higher end potential that we discussed. Still got time to kind of monitor trends and model guidance, so we'll continue to watch the new models run in tonight and tomorrow, update those numbers if necessary. But as it stands right now, I'd say all of us need to prepare for at least 2 to 6 inches of snow and understand the numbers could go higher. Good question here, Greg. Thank you. I forgot to get into this. Asking what the wind chill factor is going to be. Wind chill, the worst of it looks to be Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, when we could actually even see single digit wind chill values. One thing, and sorry, there's a million graphics I wanted to include today, but it's hard to, it's just so much going on to get it all together. But one of the things that came out this afternoon from the Weather Service, what they call an extreme cold watch for Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. That's primarily for wind chill values that could get into the single digits. So that's another concern. The other thing to note here that I did not mention is Tuesday looks to be breezy to windy at times. This is going to be a wind whip snow. This is going to be unlike an event most of us have seen if trends continue. And then, of course, with that in mind, we talked a little bit about power outages. even though, we may be talking about winds gusting the 20s and 30s, that does increase that outage potential a little more. Let's see. Look like a couple of people were asking, is this more snow than we got in 2017? And the shorter answer is yes, quite possibly. Okay. So I think I had that graphic up. Hang on a second. Audio will jump. So you see in 2017, Baton Rouge had 3.5 inches. Um, so right now, that's kind of on the low end of our range that we're talking about. So yeah, this quite possibly could be even more than what we saw in 2017, more than what we saw in 2008, for those of you who remember that one. So that's why we say, pretty rare event, it looks like. Ashley asking about the heading to the airport in Baton Rouge on Friday around noon. Will the roads be okay by then? It's impossible to predict that, but I would hope by Friday we're doing better, Ashley. Um, I'm still a little nervous in the Thursday if the forecast plays out like we think, though. Amy right below says, we come to Baton Rouge from home on Monday. Would we be able to get back Wednesday or Thursday? That's iffy. We don't know until the event unfolds, but I would say there's definitely some risk. If you need to be back in Homa Wednesday or Thursday, there's no guarantee you're going to be able to do that. Okay. All right. Let's see. All right. Hopefully, we answered most of your questions. So I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up for now. But again, the message is significant winter storm on the way Tuesday. Could be one of the bigger snow events that most of us have seen. And we've got this series of hard freezes that begins in many areas as soon as tonight, tomorrow morning. So make sure you've got those pipes wrapped. Remember, you can drip the faucet, just a drip, and you only need to do it one faucet. Because we don't want to overwhelm the water systems and cause issues with water pressure with too many people running too much water. So be careful with that. The other thing, I mentioned this yesterday, is you can also, let me you can also, where you have any cabinets that are along exterior walls of your home, kitchen cabinets, bathroom cabinets, leave those cabinets open. So what that does is allow some of the warmth in your home into the cabinets and warms those pipes a bit from the outside, which can also help. But that's a big threat. So be careful. Take care of anybody that doesn't have reliable heating. Get your pets inside. Too cold for your pets. Um, Plants that can't handle the cold. It's going to be a rough week, and certainly the pipes need to be protected. We'll be all over this. Jeff Morrow is going to be on tonight, 5:30 and 10. So tune in for more from Jeff. I'll be posting a lot of updates on social media. And one real quick, I'll try to post more on this, but I did share a picture earlier. As you look ahead to how to properly measure snow, it can be as simple as, if you've got a good flat surface, in your backyard, your patio, like a table or something, putting a ruler in once the snow is falling. The ideal way to do it is by using something known as a snowboard. Not the kind you take to the slopes, but it's basically a piece of plywood or wood, or if you've got even like, if you happen to have like a square of like plastic. But it's usually either 16 inches square, 2 feet square, depending on where you look. And it needs to be white. Why white? Well, we want to minimize the warming that occurs once the sun hits that. So you want that white. So I had a sheet of plywood sitting in my garage when this afternoon, cut out a 16-inch square, painted it white. I got to go throw another coat on before it gets dark. And you find a flat, put that on a flat place in your yard. And once the snow comes down, it's a great way to measure it. You use a ruler, whatever you've got to measure it. And the other thing is, depending on if you're putting this in a spot where it may be hard to find, if we start getting 4, 5, 6 inches or more of snow and it gets lost in all that snow, put a little flag or something on it that sticks up a little bit higher that you can actually find it once the snow accumulates. I'll try to post more on that maybe later tonight, just for those of you that are interested. But for now, we'll wrap it up. Stay safe, stay warm, and we'll keep you updated.